Obviously, officials think that Amite is safe and that is a safe enough evacuation zone because it's far enough away from the site. So expected to hear more about what the firefight is, who all is out there. As I mentioned, we saw many fire trucks rushing into the scene as Meg Ferris was standing by and giving us her live reports. But our crews are moving around to make sure that we get every angle that's covered for you so you can get some information so that eventually residents can go back home.
Right.
You know, we're talking about 1,100 people call Roseland home, but the area is more than just Roseland. And we even heard from our partners in NOLA.com, Tyler Bridges, saying that Governor John Bel Edwards actually lives in this evacuation zone.
Yes.
So he is under this evacuation order as well. Governor Jeff Landry, current Governor Jeff Landry, said, you know, on X that he is monitoring the situation and, you know, watching and waiting to see what's happening. So again, if you're just joining us, we're interrupting regular programming, waiting to hear from emergency officials up in Tangipahoa Parish about this fire that is burning at the Smitty supply facility that's just outside of Roseland, Louisiana. It is in between Amite and the city of Hammond up US Highway 51. So this facility has been the location of a series of explosions this afternoon that we've been hearing from witnesses reported there.
I mean, I'm typing away right now because I'm looking for information, and the things that I'm finding is what you're seeing right now on your screen. People are getting video and showing how far the smoke plumes are reaching from this place that has mostly oil and lubricants. So when you talk about setting something like oil and lubricants on fire, it's going to be a difficult process in trying to put that fire out. But so far, what we don't think there are anything there's anything there that's hazardous that could be in the air. But you know, we've seen pictures coming into our newsroom of people saying they're finding soot and ash on their vehicles, and as large as this smoke plume is, you know, that could definitely be far-reaching. But again, a lot of people still being evacuated. My family evacuated in Amite, Louisiana. Everyone that I know that's in Roseland right now going into a safe area. But I mean, this massive plume smoke has to be disturbing for a lot of people. I'm looking to see if we can get any information from Smitty himself, giving us an update as to what happened. Hopefully when we have this news conference, they can tell us what actually started this fire.
Yeah, yes, I would assume that is certainly under investigation. I know, you know, probably getting the fire out first will be first order of business, but you would expect that, you know, officials, law enforcement officials, firefighters have been in touch with Smitty's supply. They're being, you know, communicating with each other about exactly what is in those tanks, what they expect it to do in terms of burning out, what firefighters need to do in order to get it out, because, you know, I'm not going to speculate on what's in there, but a lot of things like oil and water don't mix when you have a grease fire.
Right.
You can't put water on a grease fire. It makes it worse. So if there are things that are happening like that, we're hopefully going to hear about it. But we want to go to this news conference. Emergency officials giving us an update up in Tangipahoa Parish on what is happening on the ground there at Smitty's supply. So let's listen in.
I'm sorry to be rude. I just. That looks kind of funny.
Sorry.
Again, Tangipahoa officials, if you're just joining us, they're getting set and waiting for all the news crews to be ready to go before they give an update. You're looking at Tangipahoa Sheriff's Office right there. You're looking at firefighters up in Tangipahoa Parish, emergency managers in Tangipahoa. Hopefully the parish, that's the parish president, Robbie Miller.
Ready?
So let's listen in.
Right. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for being here to let the citizens know what's going on in the area. I'm Robbie Miller, Tangipahoa Parish President. I have leadership from the various agencies that have responded to this event. We have a fire at Smitty's Supply in Roseland, Louisiana. The first call came in at 12:53 this afternoon, so we're barely 3 hours into this. At 1:15, there was an evacuation order for the immediate surrounding area of Smitty's. At 1:35, that evacuation area expanded to 1 mile around Smitty's, and that's where we stand right now. And at 1:45, we set up a staging command center here at the Florida Parish's arena. We have multitude of agencies responding, including every agency in Tangipahoa Parish, first responder, fire, police, multi-parish from other parishes are bringing in folks to help. DEQ, EPA, Louisiana State Police are all monitoring the situation. DEQ is currently monitoring the environment and the situation to determine and guide us on what to do. The firefight is still going on. I'm sure y'all have seen the different pictures and so forth of what it looks like out there. The best news we have is that as of right now, there have been no injuries in this event, which is a godsend. So first of all, we want to thank the Lord for protecting all those people, that no one was injured in this event. So in the initial event through the firefight right now. So at this point, that's all we know. It's all the information we have. I will reiterate that we are doing our best to protect people, structures, and the environment. And all of those agencies are pulling together to do that, and the information that we get, as we get it, we will make sure that the citizens of the area know what's going on. But currently, that's about all we have to know, because quite frankly, we've been fighting a fire for 3 hours, and that's as far as we've gotten. So if you've seen it, you understand where we are, and that's pretty much what our statement is. Thank you very much for being here.
President, what is burning? Is it a tank with chemicals in it burning? What is physically burning?
I personally don't know. Obviously, you can look from the pictures that there's anything that's on the ground there is pretty much burning. But specifically what it is, we'd have to ask someone else. And if the company wants to talk about it, they're welcome to.
Can someone address if there's any chemical risk to anyone?
Well, that's what, no, we can't right now, because DEQ, DEQ on the scene, EPA may be here now. Personally was on a phone call with them knowing they're on the way. I'm not sure if they got here yet, but DEQ has definitely been here as quick as they could get here, and they've been monitoring the environment and the whole situation, and they'd have to advise us on where we are with those answers.
Still no idea what caused it. There was no light in the area at the time. Or anything like that.
We have no indication of what caused it at this point.
And the number of employees at Smitty's?
It's approximately 400.
400, thank you.
I'm sorry, can you speak a little louder? We do not have that answer, but I assure you that with the folks that are here, we will continue to fight that fight until we get it under control.
Do you anticipate expanding beyond the mile right now?
Not at this point.
Have you seen a, explosion or situation of this magnitude before?
No, we have not. This is, quite unique and the first time for, I think, all of us here. I will tell you, I'll give you a little information that we do have some of our firefighters that are experienced in this because they worked in the petrochemical industry on the river. So they are involved on how to attack it. And we do have expert firefighter contracted folks that are here on site working too.
So right now, there's no idea if there is a environmental risk right now?
Again, the DEQ and our EPA will explain that to us and give us that information and what we need to do at that time.
Is there still a risk of more tanks exploding and debris in the air, large debris?
Without being on scene and not being able to get a really good look at it, although we've got a decent look at it, I don't know that we can speak anything about what could happen next.
All right, folks. That's it. Thank you.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
All right, just getting word from Tangipahoa Parish President Robbie Miller with few details, quite frankly, at this point about what's burning out there. I think their main concern right now is just to try and get this fire out. They've been fighting it for 3 hours now. He did say that DEQ, the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality, is at the scene. He said he believed that the EPA was on its way to the scene, some representatives from there, because obviously this is a questionable environmental situation and it's questionable in terms of protecting the health of the people who live around there and work around there. Robbie Miller saying 400 employees actually work at Smitty's. So that's a pretty significant employer for Tangipahoa Parish. And I know, so not only is this affecting residents there, it's affecting those 400 people who get their make a living off of this facility.
Right now, he gave us a little bit of a rundown. So just to give you an idea of how long this fire, they're still in the middle of a firefight, by the way. He said the first call came in at 12:53 p.m. and then at 1:15 p.m. the evacuation order was issued. At 1:35 p.m. evacuation expanded to a mile, and at 1:45 the command center was set up. And they do have multiple agencies that are fighting this fire. And the good news, he did confirm right now, so far as we know, there have been no injuries due to this event, and they have been fighting this for 3 hours. So he said he doesn't know necessarily, and we heard Amite Ferris ask a question, if he knew what would cause the fire or what's causing it to burn so much. Well, he can't confirm necessarily what's burning or what's causing it to burn. According to our partners at the Times-Picayune and New Orleans Advocate, in a previous article that they've done, Smitty says 20 separate tank farms, 265 steel or plastic above ground storage units, and they hold between 2,000 and 504,000 gallons of various but generally flammable liquids. So you're talking about, like you said, mixing oil and water, trying to stop this from burning when you have liquids that are meant to burn in that way.
Yeah, we don't know specifically what those chemicals are, but we do know that Smitty's is a supplier of automotive chemicals and lubricants.
Right.
And so when you think about, motor oil and things like that, that's likely what's housed in those tanks that Sharice just mentioned are housed there. Now, firefighters who are at the scene right now, Robbie Miller said, they are some of the ones who actually work in Tangipahoa Parish are experienced in petrochemical fires because they worked in the petrochemical industry on the river. He also said that they have brought in contracted experts in petrochemical firefighting. They have been engaged and involved in this firefight at this point. So it's interesting to hear that timeline that you just reiterated for us, Sharice, because we did hear from witnesses that the first explosions happened at 12:45.
Right. Yes, that's when we started to hear that explosion. And when I asked my family if they had heard any of the explosions that happened around that time, they said, well, we thought maybe it could have been thunder or something that we could have been hearing or mistakenly hearing as thunder. I don't know necessarily. And Chris Franklin confirmed that. Did they have any?
No.
There was no storm in that area.
Chris has been telling us, that there wasn't any. That's why we don't think. We're purely speculating at this point, but it doesn't appear as though lightning may have been a factor.
No, so it seems like if that wasn't a factor, then that is exactly what they heard. And so they started to get text messages from other family members that are in the area telling them that there was an evacuation taking place and they needed to get out of Roseland. And so they went over from Roseland, which is not far, really kind of down the road from Roseland to Amite. But this facility that we're talking about, they have multiple facilities. So this is the Roseland, Louisiana facility. And according to their website, there's a facility in Hammond, and you mentioned that a little bit earlier, one in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and one in Jasper, Texas. Again, while they hold various lubricants and different oils and oils for car parts and whatnot, we don't necessarily know what's causing or what particular oil is inside of that barrel, that tank rather, that's causing it to burn for 3 hours.
Yeah, and again, you would think that the explosions came, and we're looking at that drone video that you're seeing too on the screen right now, but you would think that those explosions happened as the fire spread from tank to tank to tank. There was a possibility of a little bit of shower activity that happened just a little while ago, and Chris was talking about that, before you joined us, but he was talking about how that would have been a good thing.
Right.
Although, oil and water, again, if you have a grease fire, everyone knows you don't put fire on a grease fire. So there's a big question mark about whether or not, there is a concern about that. But again, having those firefighters who are experienced in the petrochemical industry, having those, outside contracted experts coming in can only improve the situation there. You would think, Sharice, that they would want to get it contained to make sure that it doesn't spread to further tanks.
I mean, and it seems like they're obviously they're going to need some help fixing this one, but obviously they're trying to make sure that it doesn't spread, because when you think about what they hold in those tanks, you don't know necessarily what's next to it, but they have mentioned, and according to this DEQ report in 2023, it was mentioned that these things were highly flammable, though they don't consider them to be hazardous. So to think that this could spread to other tanks, and we don't know what's inside of them, again, everything pure speculation at this point, or if what led up to this or what's making this burn even further. But this is what they have on their website. This is what the DEQ report has found, that they have things that are are flammable inside of those tanks. So you want to stop this from spreading to the other tanks. And it seems like, based on the video that we're watching, that it's kind of connected to one, is sectioned off or cordoned off to one area so that it doesn't spread other places. But again, I don't know if there are some firefighters there and multiple people that are helping. I'm sure that surrounding parishes should be joining that firefight in the wilds just so they can get that under control.
Yeah, we saw some fire trucks coming in as Meg Ferris was doing a live shot a little while ago. So many agencies involved at this point, given that this has been a 3-hour firefight so far, almost 3.5-hour firefight so far. So, you know, lots of different agencies coming in to help. Robbie Miller, the parish president in Tangipahoa, just wrapped up a news conference a little while ago, if you're just joining us. And he had very few details, frankly, about what was happening at the scene, because he was holding that news conference at a facility that's in Amite, which is a bit of a ways away from where this is actually burning. So, you know, few details about exactly what's burning, how this fire started. We do know that the evacuation zone is still just 1 mile. So it's just 1 mile around this plant. Schools had to be evacuated via bus. The Tangipahoa school system sent in buses to hurry up and get kids out after these explosions started happening. I think they had a real concern that more explosions were going to continue, because they were continuing when this first happened. We heard that from a number of witnesses as those different tanks, you would assume, caught fire. There were loud booms in the area. And what we do know, Cherise, in some of these videos, it almost looks like it's raining, but it's not. Chris said there was no rainfall in the area at the time this was happening. It's soot and different debris that's coming down from that huge smoke column. And that's what officials have said that they're concerned about. And that's why they have asked everyone in that 1 mile radius to leave to protect them against that soot. While it may not necessarily be toxic, it's something you certainly don't want to breathe.
Yeah, I'm trying to look, and I'm looking online to see if a map can show me just how many schools are close to that evacuation zone. So far, what I'm seeing, maybe I think we're thinking primarily Roseland Elementary School, Roseland Montessori School. They were evacuated. No other schools evacuated at the time. And I guess those were the ones that are really as closest to the blast. But again, when you talk about Amite, you know, for instance, I think about Westside. I think that's the name of the school, Westside Middle School, and all that. That's 2 to 3 miles away, and so that's in that. I'm wondering if they can't get this under control, because you know, in looking at this video, I'm hoping that this is not, you know, spreading any further to any of the other tanks. And if this does spread, does this mean that we could see that evacuation zone open up a little bit more?
Yes, and we just want to clarify, this video that you're looking at on your screen is not live video. We are broadcasting live right now, but this video was taken in a drone by Chris Owens, who's a drone pilot up in Tangipahoa Parish. He allowed us to use this incredible video that really does show the site in its entirety. You can see a parking lot on the right side of the screen, and then, you know, the tower column of smoke that you see in the middle there, with additional areas of tanks that surround where that massive fire is burning. So we have been hearing from Chief Meteorologist Chris Franklin throughout this to kind of look at if we can expect any rain to help out firefighters. Is everything kind of calmed down on the radar right now, Chris?
It has been settling a little bit on the North Shore, and usually about this time in the afternoon we start to see most of the heavy rainfall wind down. Not to say we can't see a few pop-up thunderstorms or even just some light rain to develop over that area. Again, not necessarily a good thing, depending upon exactly what is burning. It would help to settle any debris in the air and kind of force it down to the ground with some heavier rainfall. But the shower activity on the North Shore has been fairly limited over the last hour or so, especially between Roseland, Arcola, and the Amite area. Not nearly as heavy as it was a little bit earlier in the day, with regards to some thunderstorms in the vicinity, but never really over that area. And we were looking back at radar, and as we said, it didn't look as though around the 12:50 or so time frame that we had any lightning around there. Now, we've had some light showers, but never really any lightning. There were lightning strikes nearby, but never really over that location. And we can actually zoom way into it. As we said, that location of Smitty Supply is located right along US 51 and LA Highway 10. So it's right at that intersection. And I'll go back over the last 4 hours. So this is before that. And notice there really isn't anything until about 12:59. And you see this little what's showing up on radar here, reflectivity, it's possible that that is some light rain. It's also possible that it is at that time the radar was able to pick up the smoke plume into the being lifted aloft. Radar is able to detect that, and it's possible there was either some light rain over the area at the same time, or that is radar picking up the smoke plume. And then kind of going further into the future over the last couple of hours, again, notice how it just kind of sat. I'm going to go back here. Notice how that kind of just sat. This is actually the first time I'm really diving into this. What I did was I increased the intensity of the radar, which is why you see a lot of these light blue colors. Normally we're showing you kind of the light to dark greens, to then oranges, reds to show you more intense rainfall. I increased the intensity. That usually gives us more of these little false returns, but it also allows us to really find minute features in the atmosphere, such as smoke. And when you look at that rain over Roseland and kind of Smitty's just to the north of that, as you watch this, what could have been rain, notice how it doesn't move, and it actually intensifies going to 128, and then you kind of see it spread out a little bit more. That may have been the smoke from that fire, and then as we started to get some rainfall nearby, it kind of mixed out a little bit, but I think we were definitely able to see the smoke on radar, especially when I increase the intensity, because keep in mind the radar site is now not over in Slidell. Remember, it was moved to Hammond, so it's actually not very far away, so we really get great detail of things in the atmosphere as close as Roseland and Arcola, and I think that was definitely some of that smoke. Now, whether or not this is heavy rainfall, or I should say, excuse me, light rain, or the thickening of the smoke at this time, maybe kind of a mixture of the two. We were with Meg Ferris a little bit ago, and they were having some showers in that area, so hard to say what was rain, what was the smoke. Looks like at the moment, this is a live look at radar now, it's kind of a moderate rain over that area, and again, not necessarily a great thing depending upon exactly what is burning. Obviously, from what we could see, they were using water with the hoses onto those fires, so any kind of rain would certainly help out.
Yeah, especially with that debris that's in the air, right?
Right, that will help to settle it down.
Okay, good stuff.
All right, we're going to go to Amelia Strahan, one of our crews that's out there. Amelia, can you give us a little bit of an update on what's going on? I know that some of the schools were evacuated in that area.
Yeah, about 400 students. I'm actually joined here with the superintendent, and she was telling me that 400 students were evacuated from, was it just Roseland Elementary?
Just Roseland Elementary, which is the school that's closest to the explosion site at Smitty's.
And just kind of tell me, you know, we were talking about it just a moment ago. A lot was happening at one time. How did you make the decision to come here? By the way, I actually talked to a few parents. They were saying the school did an excellent job at handling this. It was very smooth. Everyone felt safe. So kind of tell me what that process was like.
Well, we practice things like this, but you know, this is the thing that was real. So I received a call from the principal at 105. I talked to our Homeland Security person, Dawson Primes. Then he made the call that we needed to evacuate the students away from the school. And so this building, the central office here in Amite, is further enough away from the site, but still in Amite. And so we called our buses to go get the kids. The teachers rode the buses over here with their students. They had their rolls with them. We sent out messaging to all the families at Roseland to let them know to come here to pick up their children. All of our staff came out of their offices. Accountants, you know, school nutrition folks all came out, and everybody, all hands on deck. We had people outside flagging traffic and directing traffic, others checking IDs and signing students out to their parents. We had our students in here in the air condition in the boardroom. We even had something on the big screen for them to watch while they were waiting for their families. So we tried to make it as comfortable as possible and cool them, you know, let them get cool, because a lot of them, when they came in, they were kind of hot. Getting all the buses, and a lot of traffic in town with people trying to move about on the block roads. So we did our very best to, you know, calm them, give them hugs, love on them, get them comfortable until their parent could get here.
And speaking of parents, some of these parents were at work. I actually talked to one mom that said she was working like an hour away. What was the response from those parents?
So, you know, we're going to wait here until every parent's here. Of course, all of our children have been picked up, but we're committed to stay here with the children until the parents can get here, whether they're an hour away, 2 hours away, whatever. So, and we keep, you know, letting the child know that the parents, you know, coming to get them, reassuring them of that, because that's an important thing too, to help them feel safe. So we work with parents. We make sure that we stay with them until they can get here to get their child.
And that's exactly what we heard. We actually, one of the mothers showed us where she got like, I think 10 messages from the school, really updating every step of the way. Did you have some parents that were experiencing some anxiety about this?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you can imagine, you know, you have your child that's at school, there's an explosion, and, you know, the child is, was upset. You know, some of the children were, you know, we had some kids crying because, you know, it was a different thing in their schedule. So we greeted them at the door when they got off the buses, and we gave them a hug, and we said, look, Mom and Dad's coming, they're going to be here, and you're going to stay here with us in this nice, cool building until they get here. So everything's good. So once we did that, they came in and settled down. And then we had to, you know, check at the door for parents' IDs. That took a little time. But, you know, the parents were wonderful. They were absolutely wonderful. And they were patient. I'm sure that they were anxious. They had traffic to get here because roads were blocked here in Amite. But yet they came in, they gave us grace, and they knew that their kids were safe here.
And you know, we talked about the parents, the children. You said some of them were crying, kind of. You know, what did it take to calm the kids down? By the time they left, was everyone, you know, were they kind of in good spirits again?
Everyone was fine. They needed a smile, a hug. You know, we had water here also. We had water, bottles of water delivered from the warehouse here, so we had water to give them. And, you know, just, I mean, we had probably, I don't know how many adults down here from different offices. We even have a Title I federal program office across town. Their staff came over to help. All of the transportation department, extra people came in, bus drivers to help. And we just, you know, gave them a smile. We stayed calm. We hugged them. We gave them Kleenex, said, look, it's going to be fine. You're okay now. And your mom and dad's going to be here to get you, and we're going to keep you safe till they get here. And they were fine. They settled right down. So it was all good. And we're very happy that, you know, everything worked out great today. I can't think of much that we could tweak in the process of, you know, what happened. And, you know, our prayers go out to the families that live very close around that site at Smitty's, and then also the employees at Smitty's who, you know, their jobs may be impacted here. So.
And as far as the state of the building, you know, it was right near this explosion. We've seen the pictures. We've seen that, you know, the reason it was evacuated was because of debris. Is there any oil on the building, any kind of debris?
On our building, there's nothing that I'm aware of at this point that's on our building, but I do understand there's some more explosions happening, so I'm not sure what the state is at this time. We're not allowed to even go to the school. So our teachers that rode school buses over here with their children, their cars are over there. And so we can't get in there to get their cars. So some of their family members have been called, and they picked up our teachers and faculty members from Roseland. So they'll have to go back once the Sheriff's Department and, you know, Homeland Security secures and says it's safe, then our teachers and faculty will get back in there to get their vehicles.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. All right, guys, well, we'll keep you updated as we know more. Again, Roseland Elementary, it was evacuated. They were inside that 1 mile evacuation zone, hearing really great things from parents about the school. So like I said, we'll keep you updated as we know more.
Amelia, thank you so much. Obviously had to be a shock to the people and the parents there when you hear about that explosion. I'm glad that they were able to keep the kids calm.
Yeah, for sure. And it's hard to hear that the teachers can't even get to their cars at this hour. So a pretty serious situation there. 400 students had to be evacuated.
Yeah, 400 students evacuated. evacuated, and that was 2, if I'm not mistaken, elementary schools that were evacuated that are in that area. And just to imagine, we said it's been 3 hours. Now it's been a little, over the 3 hours that the fire is still burning. While this is not a live picture that we're looking at right now because we can't get close enough because we're also in the evacuation zones about 2 miles down for our own safety. But this fire is just to show you how intense that is. And imagine you have oil, any sort of oil in this area or lubricant in that area boiling. It could be very difficult for them to put out.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we want to get a look at this. This is a new image in from Glenda Davis. She lives about 10 miles away from the situation. And if you can see on her car, apparently you can see soot on their car from Roseland, 10 miles away. It looks like an oily substance almost that seems to be kind of falling out of the sky from them there. You see that on the car?
Yeah.
That's 10 miles from the site.
Actually, as I saw that, I'm actually texting my family now to ask them if they're seeing anything falling from the sky or if they can take a look outside to see safely, if they can see if anything is on the house or on their vehicles right now. Because if that's 10 miles away, I mean, honestly, for people who are in the area, just to let you know how huge that smoke plume was. And from the people that I spoke to in that area, there's a picture that's going around from the Walmart there, and they all know that one Walmart that's in the Amite Roseland area, and that Walmart, it makes it look like it's immediately right behind it.
Yeah, a scary sight.
Yeah, but it's just that big in the community. So right now, again, the good news is so far we have not heard anything about any injuries or any deaths reported. I believe we heard them say a little bit earlier. We did hear Robbie Miller say that there were 400 people working there, but according to their website for this particular location, it's about 450 that are working inside of that facility. So working with different things,
lubricants and
different lubricants and whatnot.
Yeah. This situation has been unfolding since around 12:45 this afternoon. That's when witnesses are telling us they first started to hear those booms, those explosions happening at the plant. As this fire has spread from tank to tank to tank, you would assume that is when they're hearing those booms. At that point, that's when Tangipahoa officials, emergency managers, issued a mandatory evacuation for a 1 mile radius around that facility, around this facility, Smitty's out there in Tangipahoa, Smitty's Supply. And that's when all those students had to be brought by bus out of those elementary schools. They were rushed to the Tangipahoa schools headquarters in Amite. And anyone who had family members who could not get out on their own had to go pick up their family members and get them out of that evacuation area. Now, our crew was about 2 miles from that site a little while ago. And Meg Ferris is telling us that you could even see soot and debris on the state police cars that were in that area. So 2 miles away, and then again, what we just saw a few moments ago on your screen was additional oily residue or soot on cars and a house 10 miles away from this. So that tells you, just the impact that this is likely to have. Now, the good thing is Robbie Miller, the parish president there, said that DEQ was already at the site, the Department of Environmental Quality, and that the EPA, the federal regulators, were actually on their way to the scene.
Right.
That was when he gave his news conference about 40 minutes ago.
Yeah, I'm really curious as to how this fire started, even though you can only speculate at this point, but you have all of the recipes that you need to start a fire, well, all of the products that are needed to keep a fire going, but we don't necessarily know if that was the case or what led up to this fire, but we do know that if this fire is not put out soon, then those surrounding tanks, even though we don't know if they're empty, if they have anything in them, or where they stand right now, and those surrounding tanks, according to that 2023 report, definitely has things that are flammable, highly flammable in them. We don't know necessarily if they are hazardous or if they're toxic, but we do know that they are flammable.
Yes, for sure. I mean, that's a big question. Is this actually toxic to people? Now, I certainly, if it's making that kind of debris on a house 10 miles away, I certainly wouldn't want to be breathing that in.
No, you don't want to at all.
Whether it's toxic or not.
Yes.
So that is great that they have people evacuated in a 1 mile radius. Hopefully there's enough air around, that it makes the impacts on people outside of that area much less. So I think firefighters have a huge task on their hands to get this under control. This video from drone pilot Chris Owens was sent to us. He's in Tangipahoa Parish. He shared this with us. It was taken a while ago. This was taken over an hour ago. So hopefully they've made some headway on trying to get this fire at least contained to that area. And it appears to be contained even from this video that you can see, again, that was taken for about an hour ago. So hopefully they're making even more progress. Miller also said that they have firefighters who are even on staff in Tangipahoa Parish who are experienced in fighting petrochemical fires because they had experience on riverboats. And so this area, because we have such a strong oil industry, you know, there's a lot of experts in this field who can really lend their expertise to what's going on right now. Apparently, they've also contracted some firefighting experts in fires like this to come and help them at the scene. So lots of weapons, human weapons coming in to try and battle this blaze.
I'm really curious, and I know we heard earlier from Ashley Rodrigue regarding necessarily who was out there fighting that fire, because I know that this video isn't live, but I am curious to see what it looks like right now.
That's a live
now
picture.
We're getting a live picture right now, and they have to do this from it. Oh, I know exactly where they are. They're down the street from my grandmother's home. So this shows you this is not a storm that's outside. Yeah, this is not a storm that's outside.
Yeah.
This is, and just to give you an idea of how far away this is, you know, this is maybe what, a couple of miles away from where the fire and the explosion actually started. My grandmother is right down the street from this. And so that's why from that angle, she says it looks like you can see a huge plume of smoke. From here, it looks like it's a storm.
It looks like a tornado almost.
Yeah, it looks like a storm that's happening or passing by, but this is a fire, and that just lets you know how large and widespread this thing is.
Yeah, that is crazy. This is from our live camera that was actually talking to the Tangipahoa school superintendent just a little while ago. It is in Amite, and so you know, our reporter Amelia Strahan.
Strahan. We were talking about Ashley Rodrigue earlier.
Ashley Rodrigue earlier. And
if we can get her on the phone, that'd be great too.
But so Amelia was at with the superintendent just a few moments ago, and this is her live camera. And that's just a crazy sight. It looks like some sort of severe weather, but this is not the weather. This is actually a massive chemical fire that is burning, petrochemical fire that is burning outside of Roseland, Louisiana at this hour.
Well, this helps you understand why people are saying that they're getting soot and ash on their cars and on their homes. I mean, if you take a look at this, it's so widespread. You'd think a storm is over there, but that's all of the smoke that's coming from that fire.
It is massive.
And we still have not confirmed, and I know that some people said they saw an oily residue on some of the vehicles. We still don't know necessarily what's burning right now.
We don't. And we don't necessarily know that is, you know, a direct that was directly caused by what's going on with the fire. So we want to say that too, but it certainly seems like it, given how, you know, the proximity to this situation.
Yeah, and I have been aggressively searching on the internet as we're looking for any information regarding Smitty's or regarding an update from Smitty's, letting us know what exactly led to this fire. As I do that, and as we all kind of reset to figure out what's going on here, we want to play a news conference that they had a little bit earlier with Parish President Robbie Miller.
DEQ is currently monitoring the environment and the situation to determine and guide us on what to do. The firefight is still going on. I'm sure y'all have seen the different pictures and so forth of what it looks like out there. We are doing our best to protect people, structures, and the environment. And all of those agencies are pulling together to do that, and the information that we get, as we get it, we will make sure that the citizens of the area know what's going on.
There behind Robbie Miller, the sheriff is there. He mentioned that they do have environmental officials that are headed to the scene to make sure that no one is being put unduly at risk in A, fighting the fire, but B, allowing residents back in eventually whenever they are allowed back into that 1 mile radius.
Yeah, right now a lot of people have escaped from that area. They've been told that they had to evacuate from that area. I'm seeing some pictures from people who were nearby, and they can see that plume of smoke, and of course the video that's going around showing when the initial explosion happened. I believe that we had a timeline, and I hoped we would play it in that news conference, but luckily I took some notes here as to when that timeline started, when that fire started. You're talking about a fire that's been burning for several hours now.
Yes.
And we don't necessarily have a live look at it now because we were also in the evacuation zone. But we have the latest. Parish President Robbie Miller, the first call came in at 12:53, and at 1:15, that's when the evacuation order was issued. At 1:35, the evacuation order expanded to a mile, and just 10 minutes later, a command center was set up, and this is a multi-agency response. And they said that this firefight and that news conference we just played for you guys is still going on, but it looks like it. Now, this is live, if I'm not mistaken.
And look at that additional plume of smoke that just billowed up from this thing. This is our other crew that we have at the site. This crew actually was about 2 miles away from the site initially, and state police made them move farther back. So this is a little bit past 2 miles from that site where Smitty's Supply is located. And Smitty Supply is a petrochemical engineering site where they make things like motor oil, things that help lubricate engines, petrochemical lubricants that are used for automobiles and things like that. I mean, think that Smitty's website says that that's how the company started, was selling motor oil and things like that, and has just expanded.
Fluid. I mean, you know, hydraulic fluid. You know, these are things that are highly flammable. Brake fluid, diesel, grease. You know, these are all the things that are kind of your worst enemy when it comes to a fire that's starting. And we want to go out to Meg Ferris right now, who is live right there on the scene for us. And Meg, it seems like that fire just continues. I don't know if that's just the smoke of them putting that fire out, or is this fire continuing to grow larger? What are we seeing?
Exactly, Cherie. So y'all were right. That was a brand new plume just came up. The fire is not under control. At least it wasn't at the press conference that we just had within the last hour. It was not under control. And as you said, there are multiple. When I asked how many agencies are out there, and they said dozens and dozens. And we have seen just about every municipality within this whole area. We have seen their volunteer fire departments, the fire departments, all different type things. Now, you mentioned about DEQ. That's one of the things neighbors are concerned about. They're concerned about the air quality, and quite frankly, so are we. And when I asked state police, they had soot on their faces and soot all over their cars, and they said, you know, you're breathing something. I have to tell you, I am starting to smell a petroleum smell now. And I'm right at a resident's house that's right, we're just 2 miles south of the plume. We're right by the where they're blocking us off. And it is a little more smoky in the area, and there's a petroleum smell, and they noticed like maybe oil residue on the cars and on the ground and on their umbrella. So we need to find out more about that, because the residents here 2 miles out who are not ordered to evacuate, of course, they're concerned about what they're breathing. And one resident who we're going to talk to in just a little bit, she said she has asthma and she is concerned about that. Okay. Now, I did also get a text message from a viewer who lives in a different area who said that in her area there are a lot of elderly people who don't have a means out, and they're concerned too. So there are people who just don't have a way out. They don't have a car, or they're disabled and can't drive. And this resident told me that there was actually a neighbor who was organizing like carpools to move people out. So that's what's going on now. It doesn't look like the fire's going to be under control anytime soon. Now, when we asked the parish president what was burning, what was in the actual drums, the big tanks that are burning, and he said they didn't know which ones were burning and what was burning at this time. So that's what we have right now.
Yeah, that is such a crazy situation given the plume of smoke that we're seeing, Meg. And I know you're going to ask the tough questions in terms of health, because you are our medical reporter and you're great at that. And so very real concerns in terms of the health of the residents who live in that area, right. And everybody who's even fighting this fire. So Meg's saying that she's now starting to smell a petroleum kind of oil smell burning where she's at about 2 miles away from the actual source of the fire.
I have to say that makes me nervous for my family. So I know my grandmother is watching right now, so just stay inside. just try to stay inside of the house so that you don't have anything you have to worry about. My aunts, or my Aunt Sue and Josie and Aunt Mo, all of them over there, please stay inside of the house so that you guys are safe. My cousin Tisha over there as well, as you guys evacuate, because obviously, we don't know necessarily. DEQ has to make their assessment. Everybody has to do all of the
Yes.
proper necessary things that we need. And in order to make sure everyone is safe and that they're not breathing anything hazardous, we don't know necessarily what's out there, but that's
Yes.
always a big concern, especially if you can smell what's happening, or
Yes.
you can smell it. And obviously we can see as the plumes continue to grow that the fire is not out, and praying that it doesn't spread anywhere. But you want to just kind of stay out of that area. It's always difficult too, because I think around 4:50 right now. So you have some kids that are probably getting out of school that
Yeah.
are about to be on the streets right now. So you want to make sure that all of the kids are careful. They only had to evacuate 2 schools, and the evacuation zone is only 1 mile right now. So when you talk about 1 mile, you think that it's not going to be too much of a serious situation, and unfortunately, I thought that this wasn't as much of a serious situation until the images of the video and the tanks that are burning right now caught my attention, and obviously that live shot of the smoke that we're seeing right now. Hopefully they can kind of get some more people out there to get this put out, but it's always difficult when you have, again, you don't know necessarily what you're dealing with or what's burning. And when you have situations like lubricants and like oil and like motor fluid and whatnot that's inside of those facilities, oil and water really doesn't mix.
Yeah, you would hope that the facilities, the owners, Smitty's, are communicating with firefighters to talk about what substances they have, where those substances are stored.
Right.
I mean, they have a detailed map of what, they should have a detailed map of where each chemical is located on the site. So hopefully they can give that to firefighters and work together in order to figure out the best way to knock a fire, burning those fluids that are highly flammable down. So they do have a big job on their hands, though. Look at this on your screen right now if you are just joining us. That is a massive pillar of smoke and flames that is burning in the Roseland area in Tangipahoa Parish at this hour. It started at around 12:45 this afternoon, and you can see it's sort of billowing up from the source of the fire. If you look at the right side of that column of smoke, it just continues to billow up. So obviously it still has some fuel that it's burning. We're starting to get reports from people who are even outside the evacuation zone that they have oily substances on their cars, oily substances on the ground. And of course, there's been a lot of soot that's been covering a lot of people's property that's in the area, including some cars. Meg herself said that she saw, state troopers that had soot on them,
Right.
Because they've been in the area working this emergency, working this situation to try and, number one, get the fire out, and number two, keep people and the environment safe. Now, this again is that car in Wilmer that we showed you a little while ago that has that oily residue on it. You can see it's kind of dripping there off the side. Also, it looked like something was almost raining in the shots that we showed you earlier when this thing first exploded. But we know that there wasn't a whole lot of rain in the area, according to Chief Meteorologist Chris Franklin. Chris, not a whole lot of rain in the area whenever this was first happening.
No, not at all. And what rain we did have around the area has been fairly light. We've not looked at any kind of intense rains over the area. Nearby thunderstorms, had we seen any little gust fronts within those thunderstorms that passed by, maybe you would have gotten a kind of initial shift in the wind to kind of send that debris somewhere. But the winds at the moment are fairly light across most of Tangi, and thankfully, with those light winds, it should confine the spread of that debris, that chemical smell that Meg was reporting. Again, Meg is about 2 miles or so away, at least that's the last I'm aware of, from the site of the fire. So it's not unusual that she would smell those chemical smells. But again, without the strong winds in that area, and the wind should remain fairly light. Where you do see wind gusts at times are mainly associated with some nearby or thunderstorms over that area. Winds of only 3 miles an hour, and we've seen the winds variable, kind of 3-8 miles an hour from various directions. So if the winds do pick up a little bit, it might send some of that debris and that chemical smell one way or the other. But I would kind of venture to say a radius of maybe several miles away will continue to smell that. And again, as long as the smoke is billowing into the atmosphere and the fires continue, that's just going to continue to increase the concentration of the particulate matter in the atmosphere, and thus it's going to continue to keep that high concentration spreading out further and further away from Arcola, Roseland, and then just around the Amite area. But even a lot of the surrounding communities will continue to experience that. As far as the rainfall goes at the moment, we do have a decent little shower over the area right now. And this is kind of single images. And the reason I did this was because what we were showing earlier was the fact that at around the time that this may have happened, just at around 12:50 or so, notice how the radar picks up what looks to be maybe some light rain. And it's possible that this was light rain. But when I kind of scale or step through our radar imagery here, notice how it doesn't really move. Now, that's not to say we didn't have a little light shower that just didn't go anywhere, but when you consider that it's right over the area of where the fire started, it's probably safe to say this was likely radar picking up. And again, our site of Smitty's is right here. Here's 51, here's Highway 10. It is literally right here. And so where you see this little almost kind of smoke plume on radar, radar is able to detect that as well. It finds debris, things in the atmosphere, and sometimes it is not able to differentiate what is smoke and what is just small debris and what is rain. And so I would venture to say it's just too coincidental that we've got this little shower that's sitting over that area. And then as we did get some rainfall in the area, it probably started to kind of mix in with the smoke, so it started to become a little bit more difficult to determine what was the smoke, what was actual rainfall. And we did definitely have some nearby showers over the last couple of hours, really going past the past hour of those showers right over the area. And again, here is the site where our map is labeling Arcola. This is Smitty's. It is right in through here with some light to moderate rainfall at the moment. Again, as far as the winds go, they're going to remain fairly light, and they're going to remain fairly light going into the day tomorrow. We'll see less rainfall around. Hopefully by then the fire is out, but in terms of it spreading any of the debris, the winds are going to remain fairly light going forward. And unless we see a thunderstorm nearby, and even that, it's only going to initially kind of push that debris away from kind of the epicenter of where the fire is ongoing. So the surrounding areas definitely, and I would say there is not maybe one particular direction that is going to smell the smell or see the debris more so than another. And in fact, we can kind of widen out our map here to show you some of those other communities where we have had some reports, such as say in Wilmer. So you've got Amite down to the south. Wilmer, if I'm not mistaken, is in, yeah, there it is. It's in central. So this is, if they were reporting like, that's Wilmer. From the site of the explosion, if we were finding debris on cars in Wilmer, that's 8.7 miles away. So already, even with fairly light winds, the debris has been able to travel that far. Now, obviously, just because you're seeing the debris on vehicles doesn't necessarily mean the concentration is high enough that you're going to smell it, such as we heard from Meg Ferris, but definitely within probably a couple of mile radius. For folks up in Fluker, if you're not smelling it, I would venture to say with the high concentration and still ongoing fires, I would likely say you would even start to smell it. Again, with fairly light winds, it's going to be difficult to say what communities more than others will smell it or experience the particulate matter on your vehicles, on your homes, on your persons more than others. I would kind of give it a even radius away from the center, because the winds have been fairly variable. So at one point you might get a light southerly wind, which would then move it more in the direction of Fluker, and then at a moment you might get more of a northerly wind that starts sending it more toward Roseland and Amite. You get a westerly wind and it starts sending it more toward Wilmer. And again, with what little wind we had, it was enough to send that debris as far as we know Wilmer, but it's possible that it has even moved beyond that. So if any of that debris was able to move farther down to the south, then you are talking about some of the communities such as Hammond.
WWL Louisiana News at 5 begins with breaking news.
We'll take a look. The thick black smoke from a massive fire burning near Roseland after an explosion at a company that makes motor oil and industrial lubricants. So nearby residents say oil is raining down from the cloud of smoke. And we did get photos from one viewer in Wilmer. And you can see when we do show you those photos, that soot that is coming down because of the plume of smoke that we're looking at right now, along with an oily substance was on that person's car. And the viewer told us it is also a residue on their home. This is 10 miles away from the explosion site. And tonight officials have evacuated everyone within a mile of that facility.
Highway 51 is closed at this hour. And despite how horrific that fire looks, the best news in all of this is that no injuries have been reported. The explosion happened just before 1 this afternoon at Smitty Supply in Arcola, right where Highway 10 meets U.S. Highway 51, just north of Roseland. That evacuation zone extends 1 mile in every direction from that site. And Meg Ferris is beginning our team coverage of this tonight, live from Tangipahoa Parish. Meg, what's the latest?
Well, we are in Amite City, right up against the borderline of Roseland, where police have blocked us off. But y'all were just talking about the residue. I want you to see Norman Seymour's hat. Do you see all those black little dots all over it? That is, we don't know if it's soot with oil in it or oil with chemicals in it, but that's what we're seeing. And in fact, one of the residents also showed me, look at the umbrella. You can see the umbrella is covered with these little black dots everywhere, and that's what residents are concerned about. Now, the DEQ is here, state DEQ is on the scene rather, and they are checking to see if there's any environmental risk. But for right now, just a 1 mile radius around Smitty's has been evacuated, and we're 2 miles out, as I said. And this happened a little before 1, so we're 4 hours in, and that plume is still billowing. There is no signs that the fire is under control. In fact, in the press conference within the last half hour or so, they told us it was not yet under control. There are no injuries. That is important to announce. And also, Smitty's is a place that employs 400 people, and they have big tanks of different chemicals, and they use these chemicals to bottle them for Shell, for WD-40, and many, many products, like dozens and dozens of products that you would buy at a home type store. Here is what the parish president had to say earlier.
DEQ is currently monitoring the environment and the situation to determine and guide us on what to do. The firefight is still going on. I'm sure y'all have seen the different pictures and so forth of what it looks like out there. We are doing our best to protect people, structures, and the environment. And all of those agencies are pulling together to do that, and the information that we get, as we get it, we will make sure that the citizens of the area know what's going on.
Now, Deetris and Norman Seymour live right beyond where we're blocked off from going, and you heard the explosions. You were getting gas.
Yes, we were at the gas station at the time when it happened, when the explosion started. You heard this one boom, then it got louder and louder, then people were running, trying to get somewhere safe, and they were telling us to move from the gas station, so we had to kind of turn from out the gas station, which was kind of rough because there was a lot of cars at the time, so everybody was trying to get somewhere safe. So we did turn on that main street that goes towards the interstate, but we had to pull over because fire trucks and things were coming in. We had to wait a little bit.
You have asthma. You're concerned about what we're smelling.
Yes, I have a history of asthma and other underlying ailments too, as well as.
And let me ask Norman. Norman, you used to work at the plant. Were you ever there during a fire, and what's likely happening there right now?
No, I was never there when it had a fire. I was just there, and it was hot in the building. It's hot in the summer and cold in the winter. There's no doors, so it's rough in there. It's kind of rough in there.
I want you to show everybody watching what is on your sidewalk in front of your house. Show us what. Step this way, Deetris, with me. And show what you're seeing. This can you see when he moves his foot? You can see that the rain coming down has this thick black substance in it. It bubbles up, I don't know if that's a sign. Maybe some chemical experts can tell us what's in the soot, something that when you move it, it bubbles up like that. And you don't really notice it. We're starting to smell a little bit more of a oily petroleum smell, which I didn't smell earlier. But that is concerning now that you see all that.
Right. It is very concerning because, like I said, I was in the middle of it, so you can smell it a little more that way, but now you're starting to smell it a little this way as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So I am concerned.
Okay. Deatrice and Norman Seymour, thank you so much. And I've talked to viewers who live in different areas who say they also are concerned that if they have to leave or need to leave because they have some sort of asthma issue or something, that there are residents who don't have the means to leave. They don't have a car or they can't drive, maybe they're disabled. And I've already heard from some people that are they're doing carpools. They're having like a neighborhood captain get people and take them away. So that's what's going on now. There's still so many unanswered questions about what's happening, but I will tell you the fire is still billowing. Let's get one more shot for you, a live shot, so you can see the latest. It is still billowing up. Now, I do notice a little bit of white smoke, or maybe that's clouds in front of the black smoke. But the plume doesn't seem as big, but it's still more and more smoke coming up from this plant. So that's it from Amite City right now, and we will be gathering more information as the evening goes on. And we'll be live on WWL Plus and on our website, WWLTV.com, and of course on Channel 4. Reporting live from Amite City, Meg Farris, WWL Louisiana. Back to you.
All right, yeah, Meg, that plume definitely looks smaller. And
Yeah.
even on my Facebook page, people are sending me pictures and videos of oily residue that's being found on people's cars and homes and things like that. So we're going to try and get all of that information so that we can show it to you in just a little while. But as part of the evacuation order, students were actually bused from Roseland Elementary to the public schools central office in Amite.
Well, that is where parents have been picking up their kids as they get word of that explosion and the fire at Smitty Supply. That's where Amelia Strahan joining us now live. You spoke with the superintendent a little bit earlier, Amelia.
I did. I spoke with the superintendent and parents and actually a few students before they left. There was a lot of anxiety telling us about, getting the call that their student was at the school and there was an explosion less than a mile away. The students were kind of describing, thinking maybe they saw a tornado out the window. Just as Meg Farris mentioned, a lot of unknown, but the children were safely evacuated to the Amite Central School District office. Now, we're about 10-15 minutes from the explosion site, and I want to show you guys, if you'll look behind me, you can see the plume of smoke even from where we're standing right now. As you guys mentioned, it does look like maybe it's gotten a little bit smaller. It is still pretty thick smoke though, and that's why a lot of the children, you can kind of see the cylinder shape, were concerned that maybe it was a tornado. But the one thing we kept hearing over and over again from students and their parents was how well the school handled the situation. They said that the text messages updating the parents on the evacuation were just rolling in one after another. The students said, they were describing their classrooms. They were kind of scared, but the teachers were giving them hugs. And we heard the same thing from the superintendent. She said, we prepare for this. We do drills for crisis situations. And they think that's why they were able to execute the evacuation so seamlessly. It was 400 students, so that's quite the evacuation. But all of the students rather have cleared out now. They've been picked up by their parents, but we were able to talk to a few of them before they left campus, and they described what they were like in their classroom when they saw the smoke out their windows.
Some of my classmates started crying and stuff like that.
And I got scared problems. I got really scared. I started crying.
Really, not everybody. Some people was freaking out. Some people was chill. It was just like mixed emotions, really.
Now, we also asked the superintendent, what are the plans for next week? We've got a few days, but this is a big explosion. We don't know kind of what the debris looks like. They're not even totally sure what the debris looks like around the school. And they said they're still evaluating that situation, and they'll keep parents updated as they make a plan for next week. Reporting live from Amite, Amelia Strahan, WWL, Louisiana.
Yeah, I hate that the teachers can't even get to their cars.
Right.
I mean, it is a difficult situation there. Thanks so much, Amelia. This afternoon, the winds have been blowing toward
Roseland, rather. And
Roseland,
they have had
yes.
some light rain as well. The rain actually could probably help the situation. Chief Meteorologist Chris Franklin joining us now with more. Are we right in that?
Well, we're getting a little bit of rain. That really has not been the issue with regards to heavy rain that would help us out. The issue has been we've had kind of light variable winds from all different directions. We had an earlier photograph of debris on a vehicle in Wilmer, which is about a little more than 8.7 miles away. So if you kind of figure that wind is kind of shifting debris in all different directions as the winds have been coming from all different directions, about 8.7 miles puts it toward Kentwood, puts it toward Greensburg and St. Helena Parish, and then also south toward Amite and almost as far south as Independence. So all of those surrounding areas, it's very possible that you could have some small debris on your homes, on your cars, outside, on your persons. As far as the rainfall goes, though, we've had some nearby thunderstorms, and we were looking at radar earlier in the day. No thunderstorms near Amite or any of those communities, Roseland or the center of where this actually happened at Arcola. This is exactly where it is right now, and we have kind of increased our radar. And it's possible that this is some light to moderate rainfall, but when I increase the intensity, sometimes it's able to depict soot or debris or smoke in the air, and it's possible that our radar is indicating where that smoke is still ongoing. As far as the winds, they have been light, and that will continue to be the case through this evening.
All right, Chris, thanks so much. And just into our newsroom, we want to let you know that a shelter has been opened by Tangipahoa officials at the Amite Community Center for anyone who needs it. The address there, 101 West Chestnut Street. I'm sure most of you who live in that area probably know where it is, but just in case you don't, it's at 101 West Chestnut Street there in Amite. It is a shelter that's open for residents who may need it, who are in that evacuation zone, who have been asked to get out for their own personal safety. We're going to have another update on the explosion a little later in this newscast, and you can also find the latest information on our website, our free smartphone app, and our social media pages. Well, today marks day 9 of the search for a 12-year-old boy who went missing from his New Orleans East home. Now Crime Stoppers is getting involved, hoping a reward will help encourage community members to help in the search efforts. The boy's family tells us Brian Vasquez climbed out of his bedroom window around 5 a.m. last Thursday. He was seen a few times between then and 6:30 a.m. on Ring cameras in the neighborhood. Crime Stoppers offering a cash reward of $1,250 for information that leads to his return. The number to call for tips, 504-822-1111. You can stay anonymous.
And investigators in Pascagoula, Mississippi, trying to piece together what led up to a deadly shooting at Ingalls Shipbuilding. The sheriff says they arrested a suspect identified as 25-year-old Curtis James Jr. They say he's an Ingalls employee from Mobile, Alabama. Ingalls is one of Mississippi's biggest employers with around 10,000 employees from across the Gulf Coast. The investigation is ongoing.
And Hurricane Erin bringing dangerous rip currents and coastal flooding to the Atlantic coast tonight. The governor of New Jersey declared a state of emergency Thursday and banned swimming at beaches there. The worst of the rough surf is expected to move out by this weekend.
And tonight we're following breaking news again on an explosion and fire in Tangipahoa Parish.
In fact, I just got a text message from Meg Ferris there at the scene. She said they just heard 2 more big explosions just moments ago. We'll be back with much more on the incident. That fire still burning at Smitty's Supply. We'll have that for you after this short break. Ian, should we go to Meg?
Yeah, we can go to Meg, I guess, for a quick hit here.
Yeah, she just heard 2 more big explosions.
That's not great.
Okay.
Well, welcome back, everyone. We've been covering this explosion that happened at a Smitty Supply, a facility that has oils and lubricants in Roseland, Louisiana. And earlier we showed you that thick black smoke from that massive fire burning near Roseland. That is after that explosion happened at that chemical plant there.
Yeah, and we are hearing from reporter Meg Ferris at the scene. Let's go live out to her. She just heard 2 more huge explosions. Meg, tell us about it.
That's right, Katie and Charisse. 2 more big, loud booms. They happened at about 5:10 because photographer Russell and I looked at our watches, and then I would say they were about 10 seconds apart from each other. Now, they weren't the type of explosions that rattled us 2 miles away, but you could clearly hear them. And right when that happened, and I'm going to step out of the way right here, much more black smoke you can see on the right. More black smoke started pluming up, and the big plume got wider. Here you can see right now on the right, it's just billowing up. So this is something that parish officials told us was their concern. Their main concern, why they evacuated a mile radius, was because in these potential explosions, which we now know one just happened, that these that parts of these tanks, these big metal tanks, could go flying. Debris could go flying. And Katie, you mentioned this earlier. You're 100% right. Just like in California, the embers would go flying that are on fire. Here come some more police presence. But and then they could land on people or people's houses, and they would start a fire. So that's exactly the concern. Why they evacuated it. I'm just looking. A bunch more fire type cars are coming up the highway right here after those 2 explosions. So that was the concern, is that debris flying, and as you said, embers flying. That's why that 1 mile radius has been evacuated. So just wanted to update you, and we'll continue monitoring this. Back to you.
Wow, yeah, a lot more of those, rescue crews and firefighters headed to the scene, it looks like. And that video is just unbelievable that we saw that huge fire plume, basically, while you were talking, Meg. It's pretty incredible. So we're going to come back out to you. Obviously, stay safe. Thank goodness you are a couple miles away from there.
All right, getting to our full forecast. Still have some scattered showers around the area. Most of the heavier thunderstorms we did see earlier into the day have since ended. Still some moderate rainfall, a few pockets of some heavier showers, and maybe a couple of lightning strikes around the Rudock area and the river parishes. On the North Shore, kind of a light to moderate steady rain from Amite and around the Roseland area through much of Washington, northern St. Tammany, and then into Pearl River County. And then a couple of thunderstorms right around the Port Sulphur area. So most of our rainfall winding down now, and we started out with a lot of sun. Then the cloud cover, rainfall really did help to knock temperatures down, and thankfully the rain started early enough with the cloud cover that it did prevent us from getting as hot. 91 was our high today, and it was mainly because of the clouds and rainfall keeping our temperatures near normal. Drying out though around the city with a little bit of clearing, still mostly cloudy. 85 degrees with a dew point in the upper 70s, still very humid outside. 70s and 80s temperature wise, not bad, but it is still muggy. But something we've been talking about over the last several days is that all indications are we are going to see a couple of deep upper troughs send drier air in. If we can get dew points into the 60s, which are not too far to our north, it would feel a whole lot better. And all indications are we will see that starting on Sunday with that drier air moving in. Now, the question is going to be with the front pushing just offshore, if the front ever does try and sneak back northward. If it does, such as what our Euro was saying, there may be periods that the humidity kind of creeps up a bit. But all indications are we're going to see kind of another surge of that dry air Wednesday and on into Thursday. Doesn't show up on the Euro, but other models indicating we will get kind of a secondary drop in the humidity and maybe even our temperatures toward the end of next week. That upper push is already starting. That has sent a stationary boundary over the area. This has kept our rainfall around Now, during the day tomorrow, that boundary is going to be a little bit more to our south. So most rainfall tomorrow, I think, is going to be more offshore and along the coast. Not that we couldn't see anything a little bit farther north, but I think the vast majority will be more south of the city. And then here comes a front Sunday or Monday. The models are not in great agreement as to exactly when that occurs. Point is, though, we do start getting into less humid air. Aaron is now post-tropical, so we'll be watching these two areas. However, Invest 90, notice with a high chance of development, is basically expected to kind of continue developing and follow right behind Aaron. Now, Invest 99 showing signs of maybe trying to organize, but not really, and most models indicate it is just going to be an open wave, meaning rainfall as it continues toward the Caribbean. We stay quiet per the long-range models in the Gulf through the end of August. That would be great. Now, we are going to see kind of a weak building high that may send our temperatures more mid-90s early in the week, but then with a reinforcement, I think a little less humid and a little milder as we head further into next week.
Welcome back. Turning again to that breaking news. Look at this. A huge, almost fireball from the ground, and one of the explosions happening outside of Hammond, outside of Amite, in between the two. This is in Roseland, Louisiana, and just an incredible sight as a petroleum manufacturing facility is up in flames.
Yeah, and right now, just giving you a look right now. This is from, I told you my family is in Roseland. This is from my aunt Josie's, well, not her porch rather, but her driveway. And if you take a look, it may look like it's dirt down there, but that is actually oil that we saw earlier, or whatever that oil or what substance that is on the ground that's turning it black. So right now, everyone, Meg Ferris spoke to someone who said they also experienced something like this on their ground. If you move it around around, but we can't necessarily tell what that's coming from. Again, that's also coming from that area at the Roseland Missionary Baptist Church as well. So we're seeing more pictures of that. You can send them to us on our website, WWLTV.com.
Continuing to cover that breaking news out of Tangipahoa Parish at this hour, a massive fire that you can see there in that witness video at the scene. Just an incredible shot of it.
Yeah, Meg Ferris has been standing by live. She's about 2 miles away, or just a little bit away from where that fire happened, that explosion happened. Meg, you were showing a little bit earlier that there was some like black soot that was on the ground. We don't know if it's necessarily oil or what liquid substance it is, but my family experiencing the same thing at their home.
Yeah, and Charisse, a good point. Let me show you right here in the driveway, the Seymour's driveway where we are, just 2 miles out. You see how it's rained and the rain has washed this black film? You can see a clear line where this black film of soot, oil, whatever it is. In fact, I'm going to call a few scientists before we come on at 6 and ask them what it might be. But that's because it's a plant that takes all sorts of chemicals and bottles them for dozens and dozens of brands of motor oil, of cleaning fluid, of WD-40 and things like that. So that's it from here. We will have much more coming up at 6, and stay on our social media platforms.
All right, thanks so much, Meg. Lots of questions about environmental impacts as we move forward.
All right, that is our news at 5. Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you back here in a half hour at 6 with the very latest.
And record Ricardo whenever you are ready.
All right, in 3, 2, 1. Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck get one more chance to stake their claim to QB1. Both quarterbacks look ahead to Saturday's final preseason game.